Hey, Sean, just curious with a couple days, obviously now since the game, looking back at that goal line sequence, is there anything that you would handle differently in retrospect, or is that just, heat of the moment, sort of, game intensity?
Well, let's go through it real quick. All right. The second down call is the call that has a chance to be reviewed. That's Jalil's play. And so, look, yeah, I mean, hindsight, does he get in or not? It's still hard to tell, right? Javante's, I know I had a good enough angle on that. And so, but we're sitting at the half-yard line, and I'm thinking we have a good goal line plan in this game. So, yeah, I mean, looking at that, and I've never been I'm one to throw a challenge flag and burn them and use them. But I didn't feel strong enough that we had crossed the goal line. It certainly looks close. And then my history relative to them changing, that type of call is just been average to at best. The anger and frustration in that sequence comes from the fourth down call and the touchdown, and then what then was, later called a penalty, and all of a sudden now we're sitting at, at fourth and call it 6 instead of fourth and a half a yard. So, we're trying to get within 2 scores. It's an important sequence relative to the game of trying to climb back in it.
Go ahead, Troy.
Coach, when you face Bill Belichick defense in his history of kind of taking away a primary weapon, is that something that, I guess, what is the challenge of that as a play caller going up against his defense?
Well, I mean, we kind of just saw it a little bit in Aaron Glenn, and those guys in Detroit did a good job. There were a number of snaps where they were going to, double Cortland. And so over the years, and we've had a number of games, I can recall one game in New England with Jimmy Graham where, Talib, went wherever Jimmy went and really did a good job shutting them down. It really forced us to find, other receivers. And it's one of the things that Bill historically has done very well. He's going to try to loot your strengths. And I think that's what good defensive coaching is, trying to force you to do things maybe you don't do as well.
Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, Coach, you've mentioned several times this year, this is a league where you've got to have toughness, you've got to have grit. How critical is that trait going to be here down the final stretch of the season for this team?
I think it's going to be very important. We all watched the games yesterday, and you get caught up into the numbers and the percentages, and you can focus on the things you can control, and that's it's obviously getting ready to play New England, and that's it. And focus on getting this next win, because that's really all that matters. And it's going to take 3 wins, but it starts with this week.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, Sean, you may have seen the last couple of days your interaction with Russ got a lot of national and local attention. I was just wondering, with a couple of days of a reflection, anything more you can share about that moment you had with Russ?
Nothing more to share, Mike. It's certainly, in-game, intensity, heat of the moment, all those things, but nothing more to add.
Go ahead, Brandon. Okay, we're gonna.
Sorry, Sean. No, sorry about that. I kind of want to go back to, you talking about the toughness and resilience. I guess, you need to show your team that y'all could win when you're 1-5. After the tough loss to Houston and bouncing back, I guess how nice is it to know that your team can show late in the season the ability to bounce back from a tough loss?
Yeah, look, I think we've got good leadership in that locker room. We've got experienced players, and I said to him after the game, I said, look, this is a tough loss. They never taste well. This one will go down, but the key for us is to get rested and get ready for, these final 3 weeks, really starting with this week versus New England. You can't lose that game twice. You lost it once, and we all did collectively. We all could have been better, and we weren't. And so let's move forward. I think the leadership and the experience in this locker room, we've leaned on and we'll lean on again, and I think it'll serve us well.
Go ahead, Arnie.
Sean, I saw that Greg Dulcich had a little setback in his comeback. Do you have faith that he's still going to play this season? Did this latest injury, kind of end those hopes? Or
Yeah, no, they didn't. In fairness to the question, I usually don't like talking about injuries, but I just want to make sure that this was unrelated to his hamstring. He just had some swelling, soreness in his foot. We took him off weight bearing for a day or two. I'm anxious to see how he does this week. I expect him to play at some point in these final 3 weeks, but I don't want you to think it was something that was going to preclude him from doing that. But we'll see where he's at this week.
Thanks.
Go ahead, Darren.
Coach, did you feel the need to hash things out with Russ one-on-one or address the blow up with the team?
Not at all. First off, we haven't had a team meeting, and Russ and I have a great relationship. No, not at all.
Go ahead, Andrew.
Sean, what did you see on the film that led to some of the breakdowns in the run defense Saturday night?
Well, ultimately, it gets the gap integrity, and you've got certain gaps, especially when you're playing a down safety defense. And so they did a good job of creating space, if you will, and then your gaps get challenged. So that would be the first thing.
Go ahead, Zach.
Hey, Coach, you mentioned after the game that you got to shake this loss off pretty soon. As the head coach, how do you do that? Is there an emphasis? You talked about the leadership of the team, but as a head coach, do you do anything this week to shake that quickly?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a good question, and I just finished talking with some of my assistants, and we've got to be able to, if we're asking that of our players, we've got to be able to ask that of ourselves. So, these guys will come in here Wednesday morning. We'll be in game plan mode for the next 2 days. We've got to have some energy. We've got to have some juice. We've got to have a plan. And we still want to make sure we get the corrections made. We can't gloss over some things that we don't want to repeat themselves. But I think our body language and our energy will be important.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Hey, Coach, I was wondering, could you explain why do you think Jared Goff was so effective at attacking the middle of the field on Saturday?
Well, let's start from the beginning. And you really don't have to say the middle of the field. He had success kind of in all areas. But I think when you're playing a lot of down safety defense, and in which we were, and Detroit's running the ball, and some of those cavities, when you do decide to throw and you pull up off of maybe a heavy play action on first or second down, you're going to find cavities attacking what basically is a run front and coverage. So I think it's a byproduct of their ability to run the ball consistently, and then you get into some of your longer protections that block people up and allow a guy like he's real accurate. So if you give him time in the pocket, he's going to find those windows.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, hi, Sean. Javonte Williams hasn't had that great of an average yards per carry lately, and Samaje Perine has run pretty well in limited opportunities. Any thoughts on giving Perine some more work running the ball?
Yeah, look, part of it is the downs we're running them on. We like to think we got all three of those guys, the running backs I'm talking about, that are capable runners, but we'll look at those spreads and we'll look at those calls, and we didn't run it as well as I thought we would, and we, quite honestly, I think that's an area. Cleveland, was the last game where I felt like we ran it really well, and I think in this next 3-game stretch we're going to have to run it better than we have.
Go ahead, Jeff.
One more question.
Sean, just going back to what you said a second ago, I know it was a night game, but in theory, you could have had a sort of a little bonus practice day. Did you just choose rest over that?
Yeah, we did. I don't know what it was, 3 games in 13 or 14, whatever the amount of games was. It just made sense to me right now based on where we're at. But fair question, because we've used this as a bonus day before. But I felt like the rest was more important, especially coming off of a night travel. If we were in a normal schedule and that was Sunday night football, we might have spent the night. We got back here, I don't know what time, 3:30 before everyone got home. But it was Saturday, so we went ahead and came back afterwards. But I think all along I felt like we were going to be, giving them some time away and then finishing up here. So anyway, all right, appreciate it, guys.